How do you take a speech from the page to the stage to the screen? How do you deliver your words with maximum impact? What are the biggest roadblocks to become a dynamic speaker? Tonight's speaker is the author of 12 books. His company, Remarkable Stories, Inc., teaches the art of transformation through storytelling. He coaches executives, sales teams, and TEDx speakers. And he coached Errol Leandre to the final round of the 2020 World Championship of Public Speaking. Turn on your cameras, mute your microphones, and get ready to take your talk from the page to the stage to the screen. Please welcome, all the way from Miami, Florida, professional speaker, presentation coach, transatlantic sailor, and pretty good jazz guitar player, distinguished Toastmaster, Dave Bricker.
Thank you so much. Good evening, Antigua Toastmasters. And I know I'm not from the islands, but I'm going to pronounce it correctly because here in Florida, we hate when people come to Key West and ask for conch. So we understand. And key lime pie is yellow, not green. I get it. So I've spent some time in the islands, love it. Very interested to be here tonight, excited to be here tonight. I have a little bit of a cold, but I'm dedicated, I'm medicated, and we're all going to get educated about this art form that we love so much, public speaking. Let me ask a question of you first, just by show of hands, perhaps. I'm just curious, how many professional speakers do we have in the room? And I'm not seeing a lot of hands because we tend to elevate this position. These skills that we work on in Toastmasters are so important because teachers are professional speakers. Any teachers here? Any lawyers here? Anybody do sales as part of their job? There are so many people who don't think of themselves as professional speakers. And I know I was a university teacher for 15 years. Nobody told me I was a professional speaker. I would have gotten myself to Toastmasters much earlier, much earlier. Almost everybody is a professional speaker. If you communicate verbally with others as part of your job, as part of the way you make a living, you are a professional speaker. So you've taken an important step joining Toastmasters, coming here tonight. Let's have a little bit of fun. Presentation skills. If we don't have these skills, we lose important business opportunities. People aren't going to be interested in our offering because so often speakers just do a data dump. It's got these features, it's got blah, 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 and it doesn't work. We have to learn what to say and how to say it. And of course, once we've mastered these skills, we have the confidence to go for it, whatever it may be. It's so important. I know, look, I lived on a sailboat for 15 years. I like to joke that I invented introvert, and mastering public speaking skills, I don't know if you ever master them, but learning them, growing them, what does this do for your confidence? What a life changer, what a game changer. So this little workshop, we're going to have some fun today. I'm going to ask our Toastmaster this evening, or whoever is actually physically running the meeting in terms of technology, to help me out. But we're going to go through a series of exercises because I can talk to you all night, but this is all about you. Like the cannibal said, it's all about serving others. Let's get some of you on the screen and have a little fun. Think about new ways to engage audience, give more dynamic presentations when you have the opportunity to. Offer better evaluations. That's an important contest to enter. Whatever level you're at, enter the evaluation contest. You can't prepare for it. So what do you have to lose by entering it? And of course, these are the secrets with which you can win speaking contests. And that's a lot of fun. Look, those plastic trophies you get, they're great. I mean, you won something, but if you can compete with yourself and make yourself better and grow as a speaker, that's really what winning the contest is about, whether or not you get the trophy. Because sometimes you know in your heart that you won, even though someone else got the trophy, doesn't matter. Can you do your best job on the platform? And of course, we're here to adapt to a changing world. COVID is still a thing. Even when COVID passes, God willing soon, we're going to be speaking on Zoom. It's a marvelous tool for bringing people together. And we have to adapt to this and adapt our presentation skills to the screen. Finally, this is how we bring home the business. This is how we make a living using our voices. These techniques work on the platform and they work in the boardroom just as well. So I'd love to get a volunteer from the audience, and I'm not going to be able to do the volunteer choosing. So if my Toastmaster can help me out here and find a volunteer and spotlight that person alongside me, then we can let the fun begin. Anybody willing to step up? I promise not to embarrass you. We're here to have fun.
I see Toastmaster Daphne's hand is raised.
All right.
Toastmaster Daphne.
Daphne, thank you and welcome.
Volunteering.
All right. Whether you volunteer or get voluntold, we're all going to have a little fun tonight. And it's always, nobody wants to be the first one to go. So I'm going to put a line on the screen from a very famous American speech by Abraham Lincoln, was given in the 1867. And I'm going to ask you to think about that and just give this a little read. It's a very famous and powerful speech. And you'll get several tries. I'm going to break it down.
Okay, what do you want me to do with that speech?
Read that out loud. Give this little piece of the speech.
Oh, 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
And you did some great stuff with that intuitively. It's one of the most famous speeches in American history. So I'm going to break this down a little bit. Now, the great speaker Winston Churchill, he read all of his speeches because he took copious notes. And there's some stories of where he got to the very end of the speech and he said, and the responsibility for this rests with those. And he couldn't remember who the responsibility rested with. And he tried 2 or 3 or 4 times. This is in the House of Commons in London. People thought he had a stroke, the great orator. And he said, never trust your memory without your manuscript. Now, we do memorize speeches. We use outlines, things like that in Toastmasters. But he had some great techniques. And he called this psalm form. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break this piece down into individual lines. And you'll notice the 3 dots, the ellipses after each line. There's a pause that you can interpret as you want. But now, instead of reading it as a paragraph, read it where each thought is isolated in a little bubble like that. And I'll step aside so you can see it. Go ahead and try it again. I can't hear you. I think your mic is mutated now.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Beautiful. How did it feel? Different?
Yes, it did.
Because We tend to write our speeches out in prose. Why not break them down into individual lines so that we can think about the impact and the meaning of each line? And some of that you did intuitively. I'm going to go now the same thing, but I'm going to emphasize some of the words that you did naturally. See the underlined words here? So think about those, and this is where we personalize our speech as well, because the words that you choose to emphasize or not emphasize are going to be, those are your personal choices. So you can take my cues, you can do it literally or do it the way you feel, because this is very natural for you, which it isn't for every speaker. I think you've done this before, but go ahead.
I did the interpretive reading manual.
Yeah, so there you go. So give this a try now with special emphasis on those underlined words and anything else you'd like to emphasize.
7 years ago, our fathers brought forth to this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Yeah. Is it starting to resonate more? How does it feel?
It feels true.
Yeah,
and not so true.
When we bring out the important words, they begin to have power. And I'm looking at the two of us. I'm not looking at the whole gallery, but I'm wondering if we, show some hands here. Is it you feeling it more than the initial reading? I know I am. And of course, Daphne's a very capable speaker, which helps. So Daphne, thank you. You did a marvelous job. Can we get a round of applause for Daphne? And I will move on to my second volunteer. And I hope you all saw that Daphne was not tortured here. And good, we have someone stepping up already. Wonderful. Can I get you to turn your camera and microphone on, sir? Or whoever's next. All right. And I can't read the names from here. Who do I have joining me?
Kisma, Panthea Jean-Pierre.
Very good. Welcome. Thanks for stepping up. Now, another thing that we can do when we speak, of course, is to really think about the pauses. And here's a fun thing, and it's a joke, it's a gag line, and watch what happens with this. Go ahead and give it a read.
The hardest thing to live with is regret. Or maybe a teenager.
Okay, kind of a funny line, right? Let's break it down and watch what happens in the room. There's some magic here. I'm going to break this down. First of all, what are the two important words?
Hardest.
Hardest and
Regret.
what does hardest sound like?
Hardest.
Yeah. And what does regret sound like?
Regret.
Yeah, right? So if we think about the emotions associated with the words, and you'll notice also I've put a long pause. So there's a difference between the harshness, the hardest, and then there's that regret. So see that long pause, those dots in there before we even get to the third line? I want you to stretch that pause out so that it almost feels like you're going to lose the audience. It's a scary place to be. Musicians are afraid to pause that long. Speakers are afraid to pause that long. So what can you do? You're processing emotion, right? So close your eyes, the hardest thing to live with, and then close your eyes. Take a deep breath like you're processing that deep breath, deep grief. Shake your head a little bit, and then come back and deliver the last line. Very solemn. So I want to hear the harshness, the hardest thing. Long pause, and then that regret, like you're saying it through your tears. Go ahead and give it a try. It's one of my favorite exercises.
The hardest thing to live with. is regret.
Beautiful. How did it feel?
Feels like I am part of it. I am really connecting emotionally with what I'm saying.
Now, I'd like to hear a little bit more hardest, the hardest thing. Like, I want to hear your struggle. And then when you get to regret, I love the pause. You could even make it longer. Make everybody lean over. What is the hardest thing? Come on, tell me. Make the audience lean forward in their seats, tease them. And then it's like, it's regret. I want to barely hear it, like you're choking it out. Amplify these emotions, because your audience, they're afraid to do that. They're tough. They've been taught not to cry in public, not to get too angry in public, right? To be too civilized. And we'll talk about that. So you're doing your audience a tremendous service by letting these emotions out on the stage in front of them. They can't do it. You need to do it for them. And they'll feel it, and they'll be grateful for that.
The hardest thing to live with is regret.
Beautiful. Now watch, I'm going to push you one more time. In that long pause, I want you to take a deep breath. Shake your head like you're about to share this deep, dark secret, something really sad. So even though you're not saying anything, give us some emotion in your face when there's the hardest thing, that's the angry moment, and then it's regret. So that just make them cry.
The hardest thing to live with is regret.
Beautiful. Now you're breaking people's hearts in a good way. Good job. That's extraordinary. Beautiful work. Now let's bring in, all of a sudden we turn it around and it's funny, right? So we take the audience into a dark place and now we're going to surprise them. So maybe we have regret, or maybe a teenager, right? Come back like almost like it's an afterthought, almost like you're walking off, and then you get this funny idea and spring it on us. So we're taking them into the angry place, into that long pause, the sad place, and then the joke at the end. And I know you're not in gallery mode here, and I don't know how many people have their cameras on, but what's going to happen is everybody knows the joke, everybody knows it's coming, and they're going to laugh anyway. Just like your child wants to watch that Disney movie 600 times, even though they already know how it ends. Doesn't matter. Everyone knows the joke, but when you deliver it with that punchline, everyone's going to laugh.
The hardest thing to live with is regret. Or maybe a teenager.
Yes, it makes me laugh. That's beautiful work. And this is the stuff that wins contests. It's not just what to say, it's how to say it. And I know when I was working with Errol, we wrote every line out this way, and we rehearsed every line. What are the emphasis words? What are the pauses? What are the facial expressions? You've done beautiful work. Thank you. Can we get a round of applause, please?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful. All right. And the next contestant, please. Who'll step up and have some fun with me tonight?
Do we have any volunteers? Okay, I'm seeing Toastmaster Kenny's. Go ahead, Toastmaster Kenny's.
It might be better without the virtual background if that's the hang up. I think it's obscuring you. But welcome. And your name one more time?
Kenise Galloway.
Kenise, welcome. All right. Let's, oh, here's one, and we're going to play with a little stage direction here because we can actually write notes into our script, into our speech, and so often we don't. So give this a read. Think about what's the situation here? What do you think inspired this statement? You're telling somebody off, right?
Yes.
This is the kind of statement you read with your hands on your hips. So you're scolding somebody who has overstepped the bounds of propriety. Go ahead and give me a little attitude.
Talk, talk, talk. You may be an honored guest, but you are not the guest of honor.
Ooh, do you feel the sting, everybody? I am not going to cross your boundaries. Good job. All right. So that's a good line. Now, there's some things that you did naturally without even thinking about it. Like, because I've had people read it, talk, talk, talk. But you did it more like talk, 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 right? There's that change in pitch there. Let's look at some of the emphasis words. And it's going to happen much like you read it the first time, but now because we have these words underlined, we can think about them. And the words that you underline, you don't have to do it my way. You can do it whatever way is most suitable to you, but go ahead and give it another try.
Talk, talk, talk. You may be an honored guest, but you are not the guest of honor.
Yeah, I love that last line. You are not the guest of honor. It's dot, 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 dot. There's a rhythm to it, right? There's some music here. Talk, talk, talk. You may be an honored guest, but you are not the guest of honor. You could bang a drum to this, right? Because it's angry. So what if you're writing your contest speech and we add in some stage direction, lower the pitch with each word. And maybe now you point to someone in the audience. You may be an honored guest, and then you look at someone else and you speak rhythmically with emphasis. It's the same thing, but now we know what to do. So think about those stage directions. And of course, no need to use mine, use your own. But now, how are you going to interact with the audience? You're going to pick some poor person in the audience and give them the first scolding, and then give that to someone else. You're going to engage them personally. And even if you're on the screen, you can imagine that you're looking out into an audience. So it's not just you and a camera. You are engaging with people, and you're using your body as well as your voice. And I'll get out of the way of that word there. Go ahead and give that a try.
Talk, talk, talk. You may be an honored guest, but you are not the guest of honor.
I think you've got the verbal stuff right, but think about using your finger here. You may be an honored guest, but you are not the guest of honor. So use that pointing finger and get in somebody's face. It's just digital, so you're not actually getting in someone's. But imagine there's an auditorium full of people in front of you, and you're up on the stage, and go ahead and look away from the camera. You may be an honored guest, but you are not the guest of honor. Give them that little cold stare at the end, and they're likely to behave themselves after that. We hope. Some people are incorrigible, but we do what we can. This is performance, right?
Okay. Talk, talk, talk. You may be an honored guest, but you are not the guest of honor.
Good. You're getting the idea. And we don't need to polish and perfect these things here. They're just exercises to get you thinking. But when you write out your speech line by line, think of the value of not just underlining and adding the pauses, the emphasis words, the pauses, and then also those directions. What are you going to do with your face, in the previous exercise, we could have written some notes in there to during the pause, close your eyes, shake your head, take some deep, somber breaths, right? Remind yourself. And what also happens is because we're not just creating words are hard to memorize, but when we create little bits of theater, first of all, our attitude changes because we can't wait to drop these on the audience because we know they're going to laugh, they're going to think, they're going to feel. We know we're going to have an impact, and it's fun to speak and engage people. And so we end up turning all of our nervous into service because we're thinking about the audience. The other thing is, if your whole speech is full of these little bits of theater, then these are the things they memorize themselves. We don't have to work on it because we're not just thinking about words. We're thinking about words, emotions, gestures, pauses, and it sounds like more, but we're using more parts of our brain, and these things will memorize themselves. And I call this the suspension bridge method, where you have these towers, and then the stuff in between, let it flow, improvise it, make a note for yourself, but it's just the filler material that gets you from tower to tower. Anyway, you have done a wonderful job. Thank you for participating. If we can get a big hand. And I hope that was fun. Thank you so much. Who's next? This is one of my favorite exercises.
Okay, I'm seeing Toastmaster Francois' hand is up.
All right. Very good. And I'm sorry, your name one more time, because I can't read it off the screen. I'm too far away.
Certainly. Francoise Bowen.
Francoise, welcome and thank you. So as we grow up, first we're little kids on the playground and we scream and we run around and we yell. The noises that come out of our children are just horrendous, right? And then we get to a certain age and somebody says, hey, use your inside voice. Cool your jets, act civilized, calm down. And I think the ladies get it before the guys do. The guys have a little bit more chance to run around and scream like animals before somebody shuts us up. And then we spend the rest of our life containing ourselves, acting civilized, acting professional, and we hold ourselves back in ways that we don't even realize. So this exercise is called Rediscover Your Big, because there's a enthusiastic, joyful, screaming child in all of us. Now, we want to be able to control that child, otherwise we make a mess of things, but we also want to be able to let that child out a little bit on the platform because it makes for great presentations. So here's the line. Go ahead and give this line, think about it for a moment, and give this line a read.
Have you ever wanted to speak out, but were afraid to say anything?
Okay. Now, what are the two actions here, the two most important concepts?
Speak out, afraid.
Yeah, speaking out and being afraid. So what does speaking out sound like?
Speaking your mind.
Speaking out, it's loud and it's big, right? Speaking out is big. What does being afraid to say anything sound like?
Timid, shy, concerned of what someone else might say.
So can I hear some of those emotions now? And you might even start, have you ever wanted to speak out? And I want you to really speak out. I want you to embarrass yourself. I want your neighbors to come over and check if you're okay. I mean, go ahead and speak out, really speak out, and then give us that pause, like in the regret. And then I want to hear that fear. Be afraid, because everybody's felt like that. You could open a speech with this, but if you went on stage and said, have you ever wanted to speak out, but were afraid to say anything? It's a good line. But if you deliver that line with the right attitude, all of a sudden, you're going to own the room. Everyone's put their phone down. Everybody's listening because you mean business. Go ahead and give me that line now, and I'll push you pretty hard on it. You'll have to tell me when, when it's too much, but I love this line. Go ahead and give it a try.
Have you ever wanted to speak out, but were afraid to say anything?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Very well done. Now give me that pause, because the impact of the words is not in the words themselves. Sometimes it's in the echo of the words. So when you say, have you ever wanted to speak out, but we're afraid to say anything, right? And then there's the long pause after, and you own the room. You're 85% of the way there. You're too easy. Usually people challenge me to work with them, which says beautiful things about you as a person, because most people are more closed up than that. As long as you can control it. Other than that, otherwise I'm afraid of you, but go ahead.
All right, let's go. Have you ever wanted to speak out, but were afraid to say anything?
Oh, you guys are too good. You know, I do this workshop sometimes for National Speakers Association groups, for the professional speakers, and very, very rarely do I get the quality that I get in these Toastmasters groups. That was superbly well done. And I see stuff going by in the chat. I don't know if you're reading, but you're getting lots of compliments. So you see what we did here, what you did. Have you ever wanted to speak out? Long pause. And then after that, now we don't have a line after that, but if you do that and you let that echo in the room, walk around the stage a little bit, and then you start going into your story, you have the room. Remarkable job. I'm very impressed. I have nothing else to push you into. There was one, no, seriously, there's one woman, I pushed her, and she finally said, speak out. And then she said, did that just come out of me? I mean, it was transformational for her. Beautiful job. Thank you so much. Big round of applause. Who's next?
We have Toastmaster Monifa.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening. Can we get the shared spotlight, please? Here we go. Wonderful. Thanks for joining in. So I call this dialogue or die-a-log because so many speakers mess up dialogue. And we tell stories, but we tell them in past tense. So I want to play a little game with some dialogue. And there's a secret to this one, but go ahead and give it your best shot, and then we'll tweak it.
Okay. I looked around and I saw nothing. Where am I? I'm lost at sea.
Mommy, I need that pee-pee.
And then Strider's voice came back to me like he was there with his hands on my shoulder
need the pee-pee.
Trust your compass.
All right, good. And I like what you did with your gesture, because you did the gesture independent of the voice, and most people do it at the same time. So there are 3 characters. There's actually, yeah, there are 3 characters in this. And I know there's a trick question there. Who are the 3 characters?
So there's me, there's my conscience, and then there's Strider's voice.
Okay, so there's you, the narrator, and maybe you'll lean forward in your chair when you narrate, get a little closer to the camera. And then there's you back in the story. Can you set the scene? I looked around and saw nothing. And then can you step back into the story and do what you did so beautifully? Where am I? I'm lost at sea. And I want to feel that emotion of being lost at sea. And then you can come back to the narrator position. Just lean forward a little bit because you're seated, not standing. And then Strider's, he's kind of, we don't know who he is, but he's Yoda, right? He's that mentor, that confidence. And you might want to change your voice when he says, trust your compass. Maybe trust, right? Something like that. So think about the 3 characters, the narrator, you the narrator, you back in the story, then you the narrator again, and then maybe Strider, maybe you're tilting your head away from the camera. Trust your compass. Like he's talking to you. It's counterintuitive not to look at the camera, right? But now the audience sees a change. You're changing characters. Someone's talking to you. And with the change of voice, it can really work.
Okay, let's try this again. I looked around and I saw nothing. I'm lost at sea. And Strider's voice came back to me like he was there with his hands on my shoulder. Trust your compass.
All right. Did everybody feel that? How did it feel to you? Did it
felt more believable, like I should trust Strider's voice.
Yeah, and like you're in the story, right? Because you're not just telling, oh, this happened. I felt I was lost at sea, like you're telling something that happened to you last week or last year. I looked around and saw nothing. And by the way, I love your emphasis. I could feel that. I saw nothing. Where am I? You know, actually you did the gesture first, or the binoculars, right? Whichever you choose. Where am I? I'm lost at sea. Feel that fear. And then there's that Yoda moment. You want to do it one more time just because you did it so well and I like to show you off?
Sure. Okay. I looked around and I saw nothing. Where am I? I'm lost at sea. And then Strider's voice came back to me like he was there with his hands on my shoulder. Trust your compass.
Beautiful. Now you're really nailing it. Imagine if you had something like that in a contest speech and you took weeks to rehearse it and go over it, because I'm seeing stuff in the chat. People are sending you compliments and you deserve them. It's very, very well done. It's good work. And put this stuff in your contest speeches because most people write them and memorize them. And you know what? It's boring. This is the stuff that brings the audience to life, that helps them feel your story. Thank you so much. Another round of applause, please. Beautiful work. We've got time for 1 or 2 more. I want to make sure there's a little time for Q&A and I don't run over. So I've got another dialogue piece to do. Who can join in?
Do we have one final volunteer?
I've got 1 or 2 exercises left, and I don't think I've beaten anyone up too bad. So far, everyone's had fun. Come on in and join me for one.
Mark McKenzie.
It's the women stepping up today. All right. Wonderful. And your name, sir?
Mark McKenzie.
Mark McKenzie, welcome. Thank you. So here's another piece of dialogue. And we'll play with this. Here are the lines. And go ahead and give this a read.
Okay, thank you. Bart the bully used to steal my lunch every day. Give me your lunch, he'd demand. But today, I have a secret weapon. I looked right in his eyes and I said, "You just make me, you wimp."
Yeah, you just make me, you wimp, right? So I love you are clearly an experienced speaker too. You've put some emotion into this naturally, which is great. Now, who are the characters?
Bart the damn bully, me.
Bart, and you, the narrator, right?
Excellent, yes.
So when you write these things out, be mindful, because we're starting with the narrator, right? Come up into the camera. Bart the bully used to steal my lunch every day. That's not really an emotional line because it's just the narrator setting up the story. Then we don't know what Bart looks like, but we can imagine that he's got a deep voice, which you did very well, and he's probably looking down at you. We're thinking of Bart as this big, he's the big bully. So he says, "Give me your lunch," he'd demand. And then we come back to the narrator. "But today I had a secret weapon. I looked him right in the eye. I looked him right in the eye and then said, 'You just make me, you wimp.'" So go ahead and give it one more try here. But think about where you're going to go and map out when you're looking at the camera is narrator. Then there's Bart looking down at you, and then there's you looking up at Bart. And you don't have to, I'm exaggerating it, but when you do dialogue, even if you just turn your head, turn your body a few degrees, because we're sitting here and I'm standing. So I have a little more stage to work with. I've got a 9-foot green screen behind me. Most of us, when we speak online, we're speaking from our desk, but we can swivel a chair, we can turn our head, we can still use these stage techniques. So give this one a try, and then there's something else we'll do to it afterward.
Bart the bully used to steal my lunch every day. "Give me your lunch," he would say. But today, I had a secret weapon. I looked him in the eyes and I said, "You just make me, your wimp."
Yeah, you wimp. I don't know if that's something you would say in the islands, but when someone is weak and we call them a wimp. "You just make me, you wimp." A wimpy person. I don't know if that translates. If it doesn't, I'm going to end up, you could say "you weakling" or something like that. If it's, anyway. So what gets awkward about it when we start acting it out? What gets in the way is, for example, we don't need to say "he'd demand," and we don't need to say "I looked him right in the eye and said," right? Let's see if I've got this. So we've got the narration, but we don't need these lines. I meant to put strike through, because if you're going to act them out, we can get rid of the dialogue tags. We can get rid of the saids and the asks and the, you don't have to say I looked him right in the eye, because you can say, you just make me, you wimp, right? We see you look him in the eye, and we do so much telling instead of showing. So go ahead and try this again now and drop the dialogue tags. And now when you watch speeches, especially contest speeches, watch people, they're telling this story in the past tense. Do your narration, give me your lunch. Okay, we saw that he demanded it, but today I had a secret weapon. You just make me, you wimp. And all of a sudden, you are pulling your audience right into the drama. Instead of narrating the story, you're pulling them into the story. And let me get out of the way of the text and give it a try. He's serious. He's going to stand up. Stand and deliver.
Bart the bully used to demand my lunch. Give me your lunch. But today, I had a secret weapon for him. You just make me, you wimp.
Yeah. Now, when you're the very last one, small technicality, now you're looking up at him because he's bigger than you. You just make me, you wimp. But you got the idea. We don't need to polish these. Now, how did it feel?
It felt way more engaging, I would have to admit, especially when I stand, yes.
Any, feel free to put your comments in the chat. I thought you did a beautiful job. I'm at about 45 minutes, and I want to make sure that I leave a little bit of time for Q&A. So I'm going to wrap this part up. Mark, thank you so much. Everyone who participated, please give a big round of applause. You guys are all fantastic. And the D47, are you in D47? If you're not,
It's 81.
Okay, good, because the D47 people would have to be worried about you. So, good. All right, I had a couple of others. I'm just going to come to the end, and then we talked about the suspension bridge, some of the stuff we talked about today, but I'm going to, there we go. What can, any questions, any ideas, any comments? How can you use this material? Does it inspire any ideas? And I'm not going to be able to see to call on anyone. So if anyone, or I'm in speaker mode here.
Toastmaster Kisma and then Toastmaster Francois.
Very good.
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say thank you so much for this experience, because as an emerging speaker, this is going to be very useful for me. I am looking for every tip, and this is one of the reasons why I joined Toastmasters, to improve my ability to speak and to present. And tonight's experience is really, really eye-opening as to the little things that we are missing out, that we are not paying attention to, that could really cause our speeches to pop. So thank you so much for the exercise. I have taken a lot of notes, and I really would love to connect with you, Mr. Bricker, if you are willing to. I would love to connect with you, because I'm sure there's a lot more to learn.
I'm easy to find, and if someone wants to put my website in the chat, or when I'm done, I will. It's storysailing, SAILING.com, and my email is dave@davebricker.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, and all of those places. So please feel free to reach out. If I can be of value, I am honored. And thank you for your kind words.
Thank you.
Okay, go right ahead. Toastmaster of the evening.
Hi.
Yes, go ahead, Toastmaster Francois.
All right, I wasn't certain if I was next to someone else. My question to you, Mr. Dave, is in this participation, one of the things I've noted the importance of using your emotions in your speech and making it personal. This is something that you must do as well, even in, you listed earlier being a doctor, a lawyer, sales, a customer service. So it's very much important that we use that, not just being on the stage as in front of persons only, but also in your work field. I myself, there's some stuff I would love to do, and one of them is being a professional speaker myself. So I'm also taking note, and I'm also taking some aha moments. That is my statement.
All right, hang on. There's someone's got their audio on top of you. I'm sorry. But if the question was to comment on the use of emotion, like I said, the audience, most people in the audience are terrified of public speaking, and they're terrified to show their emotions in public. How often are we, I mean, it's this whole idea, we're supposed to be civilized and calm. We don't cry, we don't show too much anger, right? Just suck it up and deal with it, whatever it is. Don't, and people are afraid to show their emotions. And as a speaker, it's so liberating to your listeners. If you show emotion, if you hit them here, they're going to open up the head for you, and you'll be able to influence, persuade, change hearts, minds, and fortunes. But if you don't come in through the heart, you're not going to get anywhere. They're going to pick up their cell phone and they're going to check on their email, because there's something more interesting going on there than there is on the stage. And what a life lesson that is, right? Where else can we apply that other than on the stage?
Oh, okay, right. That's what I was also asking with somebody that was talking over me, wasn't certain, was you can have this actually in your professional life, especially in customer service. That is something that everybody complain about. Oh, they don't receive healthy customer service, they were rude, or something is over the phone, they hang up. So I take note that you can take this in your daily work. Thank you.
Yeah, it's, I mean, so many people, I say they put the cuss in customer service. I'm amazed at how much damage they do for the people they're working for. Yeah, they deal with angry people on the phone all day, but they need training so they can say, sir, I'm sorry, I understand why you're angry. My job is to help you. So please, I'm listening and I want to help. I want to make things right. Will you work together with me? And all of a sudden things change, because you're not fighting against those negative emotions. When we call customer service, it's because we're upset. People who are trained to deal with that turn it around, and all of a sudden we have a completely different experience with that business. Great. Yeah, it's all about feelings. It's all about people. I think we've got time for one or two more, but Toastmaster, keep me in check with the time. I don't want to run over. And
we will have our final comment from distinguished Toastmaster Mark McKenzie, and we have no more time after that.
Very good. I'm going to switch cameras. Thank you all so much. You've been wonderful to work with, and I'm honored to be here. I will turn the proceedings over to Mark, switch cameras, and see you on the other side.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Dave, for an excellent presentation. I just love to get your thoughts, Dave, because I like how you emphasize the script and having your notes in your script, where in Toastmasters, there's this seemingly consensus that speakers should not use scripts. This evening, I had a script for the speech I gave as well. So I'd love to get your thoughts on the importance of giving 5 to 7 minute speeches, and perhaps longer speeches without script, because there's a danger there.
I think that's such a fantastic question. And I have, well, first of all, the workshop I gave tonight, I've given many times. And whether or not you noticed it, my slides are my script. They're my outline. I know what I want to speak about. I know what the exercises are. And I don't have a lot of information on those slides, but keeps me on track. I know how long it takes for the most part, keeps me on time. That part can work. What I like to do is just write the speech out rough, break it into psalm form, figure out what those towers are in the suspension bridge. Where are my little moments of theater? What's filler? The filler stuff I can usually improvise because I know where it's going. And then if I need to, I'll tape an outline up, something like that. I know there is a big emphasis on memorization, but it can take you 40 hours to memorize a 7-minute speech. And by the time you get up on stage to deliver that speech, you've practiced so hard, you're so worried you're going to blow your lines that you blow your lines. So I'm all for, I don't ever want to read a speech to an audience, but if I've got an outline taped under my camera or an outline taped on the stage, I guess you can't do that in a contest. But I mean, and honestly, I've done plenty of things with throwaway speeches that I'm going to give once. I've got a little monitor on top of my camera, a little teleprompter monitor, and I can't tell you how many videos I've recorded where I just practiced it, read it a few times, and then I'm done with it because it's just too much time to memorize those. I hope that answers your question. It's an excellent question.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dave.
And I usually figure about 100 to 120 words a minute. So if you're doing a 7-minute speech, a 6 to 7 minute speech, if you're about 700 words, then writing it out just to get the word count down and then working on it means you're not thinking about the time and you've got a whole level of stress removed. When I worked with Errol, we knew what the word count was. We knew that the speech came in right around 6.5 minutes, and it meant he had all of that breathing room to extend the pauses, things like that. He was never worried about the clock, watching the clock. He was thinking about the performance, and we just took that whole time variable off the table, because even if he slowed it way down, he wasn't going to run past 7:30. No way.
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Mark. Now, distinguished Toastmaster Bricker, I present to you this certificate of appreciation for taking us from the page to the stage. We are taking with us some key pointers to emphasize our words, to pause, to use stage direction, and to use dialogue. Thank you very much for being here with us this evening.
Thank you all.